a graph? What is a graph? And we can stop talking to Aiden. What is a graph? Santiago, what's a graph?
A graph is where you put numbers.
Okay, it's got numbers in it. Can you go on the side of your desk, please? Emily, what else do you know about graphs?
An example of a graph
Okay.
is
Okay, so our 40 book chart is an example of a graph. Definitely. Definitely. What do you think, Gabriella?
A graphs are things used to measure something, or like a bar graph. It helps you measure. It helps you to keep things organized in place.
Okay, I don't think measure is the right word, but you're on the right track. Aiden, what's a graph? It is kind of like a chart. Jackson?
Graph is used to count things.
Can be used to count things.
Or what people like stuff sometimes.
A graph is just a model or like a picture of data. So a graph would be a picture or model of data. If I'm writing, you were writing. And we've listed some examples of graphs. I heard Gabriella said, what did you say, a bar graph?
A bar model.
A bar model is not a graph.
Well, bar graph is.
A bar graph is a graph. Can you think of another graph that maybe you've seen or heard of? Santiago?
Or like challenge.
Okay. Which is a bar graph.
Maybe like
Ava?
that those models that like they have certain data, like if someone likes a map.
Yep.
If there's a lot of people that like a map, you can like color a few boxes in to show that a lot of people like a map, or if, instead of a map they like books.
Uh-huh.
They would say like they would color in the boxes like as how much people like the books.
Yep. Jackson?
Pie graph.
We can do a pie graph. We won't do a whole lot of pie graphs or pie charts in 3rd grade, but we talked about those in our text feature book. They kind of look like a circle, and the different amounts that people like is broken up into the circle. Santiago?
Maybe like a calendar.
A calendar is similar to a graph, not quite the same thing. We are going to talk about this kind of graph today, and it's called a pictograph.
Oh, it's right there. Pictograph.
Oh yeah, pictograph. Pictograph. Make sure you have the examples and what a graph is in your notebook. Emily? Yeah, probably because you did it in 2nd grade. I want your subtitles to be pictograph. Because we're going to break this word down a little bit. So go ahead and make a subtitle on your paper, pictograph. I will go ahead and tell you the word graph. Means to write. Connection to Ruby's wish, the word that we paused and talked about a little bit yesterday was calligraphy. That word graph is also in calligraphy. Why? Because calligraphy is all about writing. You're going to see that word graph in a couple of different words. Remember when we talked about in our spelling chunk the word, or the prefix, like un, means not. This is a similar idea. The word graph really means to write. So if you see a word that you don't know what it is, but you see that word graph in it, then you know it probably has something to do with writing. You might see the word cartography. It has a graph in it, so it's probably got something to do with writing. It does. Okay. Whoops. Let's go back to our page. Emily?
The word graph means like to write, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, if someone tells you to take notes.
Yep.
Or like graph and then.
Sure. All right. What does this first part remind you of? What's that first part remind you of? Colin? Picking. So are we going to be writing about picking? Maybe. Fabiana?
It reminds me of a picture.
It reminds me of picture. I get picking, I do, but pick reminds me more of picture. So a pictograph literally translates into picture writing. Picture writing. So in our pictograph, we are going to be using pictures. If I was doing a bar graph, what do you think I would be using? Aiden? Probably bars. In a pictograph, though, I will be using pictures. Ava?
So you use pictures in writing?
Yes. Yes. Okay? So a pictograph, let's add our definition of pictograph to our math vocab. So once you have what I have down, please turn to your math vocab, which has one sticky note at the very end because it's our glossary. Listen to what I'm saying, Santiago. We have a sticky note at the very end because it's our glossary. And we're adding the word pictograph. Aiden, it goes backwards, just like a normal book would. Turn the page, please. There you go. All right, so a pictograph. I'm going to write it down here, actually, so you can read it. So a pictograph is a type of graph that uses pictures to show data. Look it out your face and start writing. These pictures can have a specific scale. What do I mean by scale? We've touched on it a little bit, like a tiny bit. What do I mean by scale? And I'm not talking about scales like on a lizard or a fish. I'm not talking about those scales. I'm not talking about a scale that you step on and telling me how much I weigh. I'm not talking about that scale. What am I talking about with scale? Jackson, what do you think? Not meaning. Nope. Aiden? It is a specific rate. We're going to add that definition to our notebook as well. So in your math glossary still, some of you are probably getting to the point where you need to turn the page. That's okay. That's why we have lots of pages. Okay, let's turn. So scale. numbers, plural, with a specific rate, meaning that they count in equal intervals. This is basically just a fancy way of saying that they're skip counting. Each of my spaces in between is worth the same amount. So maybe my graph, instead of going up by ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, has a scale of 2s. So it's going to go 2, 4, 6, 8. The spaces in between are the same rate, the same number in between. So scale is really just graphing skip counting. You can put that in there so you remember. You will need to write, so if you need to turn the page to write, that's fine. But make sure you're flipping back to look at the data. So for instance, Naviana's notebook, she can write on this page. But Santiago's notebook, he will have to turn the page to write. Does that make sense? So just make sure you're looking back at our graph when we're writing. Alright, so our graph reads, a group of third graders were surveyed about their favorite sport. Look at the pictograph below to see what most of the students said their favorite sport is. Circle the word surveyed. Circle the word surveyed. A group of third graders were surveyed. What do we think that word means? Surveyed. It's kind of an interesting word. We don't read it very often. Ryan? It's similar to voting. It's not quite voting. It's similar. Ava, what does surveyed mean?
Like they're picking their favorite sport? Like they're picking something?
Kinda like picking something. What do you think, Jackson? It is. They're asking questions. So when you survey something, you are asking questions, but not just asking random questions. We're asking questions to gain data. Because if I am standing at the door and I say, hey Lindley, how are you doing? I'm not surveying Lindley, I'm just asking her a question. I'm just talking to her. But if I ask every single one of you, did you do your homework as you come in the door? I'm asking questions to gain some data. Yes or no, did they do homework last night? Does that make sense? I'm not asking to answer my question. I'm asking, does this make sense in terms of the word survey?
Yes.
No? That's part of unpacking. Not my problem. You don't have it together. Okay? There is a key on this pictograph. And I don't mean a literal picture of a key. Put your finger on the key if you think you know what it is. Caleb, what is your finger on?
The cookie thing that says equal 8 votes.
Yeah, it's a soccer ball. I know it doesn't print very well, but this right here is the key. I want you to circle it, and I want you to write the word key / scale. Because this tells us what we are going to be skip counting by. So each of those soccer balls that we see are actually worth 8 people's votes. They are soccer balls. I know they don't print very well, but they are soccer balls. So if I look at the baseball category, how many soccer balls are in the baseball category? Santiago? 2. Does that mean only 2 people voted? No. Instead, that really means 2 groups of 8. Because remember, each of those soccer balls is worth 8 votes. So you have 8 plus 8. What is 2 groups of 8? I should see everybody's hand because that's a doubles, and you should know your doubles. 2's 4 or 2's 10 and 5's what you should know. Kaylee? 16. So this really is equal to 16 people voted for baseball. I want you to figure out the actual number with an equation, just like I did, for all the other sports. Do that now, please. How many people actually voted for basketball? Gabriella, what's my equation
40.
going to be?
5 times 8 equals 40.
Good. There are 5 soccer balls. So I have 5 groups of 8. Each of those soccer balls is worth 8. And 5 times 8 is equal to 40. That means 40 people actually voted for basketball. What's the equation for soccer? Piper? 6 times 8. You should be able to figure out that equation very easy because the equation before it was 5 times 8. If you know 5 times 8, how do I get from 5 times 8 to 6 times 8? Aiden? How do I get from 5 times 8 to 6 times 8? Santiago?
Because 5 times 13 to 20.
No, that's not going to help me get from 5 times 8 to 6 times 8. How do I get from 5 times 8 to 6 times 8? Colin?
Add another group.
I'm going to add another group of 8. So 6 times 8, if I'm adding one more group from 40, is going to be 48. What's the equation for tennis? Caleb, what's my equation for tennis?
8 times 3.
Sure. I know 2 times 8 is 16. How do I figure out 3 times 8 or 8 times 3? Jackson?
You go up in a different group of 8.
I'm adding on another group of 8 from 2 times 8. What is 3 times 8? Ryan? 24. What's my equation for track? Kaylee?
4 times 7 equals 32.
What's my soccer ball worth, Kaylee? What is my soccer ball worth? Listen to my question. What is my soccer ball worth? Where does it say that? Where does it say soccer ball equals 6? Point it out to me. That does not say soccer ball equals anything. Where does it say soccer ball equals something? Nope. Point where it says what soccer ball is worth in your notebook. Point to where it says what soccer ball is worth. What is one soccer ball worth, Kaylee? 8. So if I know one soccer ball is worth 8 and I have 4 of them, what's going to be my equation, Kaylee?
4 times 3.
There we go. 4 times 8. I know 3 times 8 is 24. How do I get to 4 times 8, Naviana?
Add 1 more group of 8.
Good, do it. Count on, Naviana. You started at 24, so how did you get to 22? Actually voted for each of these sports. On the next page, I want you to write number 1. 1 and then a dot. We're going to start answering the questions that I have. Number 1 says, which sport did the most third graders vote for? Piper?
Soccer.
Soccer. Most third graders voted for soccer. The second part of that question says, how many third graders voted for that sport? Tricky. How many third graders? Ada Rosa, what do you think? Look at your graph. You have the same information in your notebook. Haley, look at your graph. I'm sitting there doing nothing. Gabriella?
The least is.
That is not my question.
Oh.
I asked how many third graders voted for the sport of soccer.
48.
48. Gabriella, how do you know it's not 6?
Because if you skip count 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48.
But I have 6 soccer balls. Why isn't it 6?
Because each soccer ball equals 8 votes.
This is like mental math. Or we have a picture and it's actually worth something.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. 48 votes for soccer. Make sure you write that down next to your sentence. Number 2. Which sport did the least third graders vote for? Least amount. Ada Washington? What is it? What did you say, baseball? The least popular sport was, baseball. And how many people voted for baseball? Naviana?
16.
16? Are you sure it's not 2? Why is it not 2, Naviana?
Because the key is every soccer ball is worth 8 votes.
Every soccer ball is worth 8 votes. So yes, baseball has 2 soccer balls there. However, that really means 2 times 8, aka 16. Alright, number 3. How many more students liked basketball than tennis? How many more students liked basketball than tennis? Jackson, what am I going to do?
You're going to do 40 minus 28.
40.
Or you can get 39 minus 23.
Ooh, I like that. Jackson says we're going to subtract basketball minus, what are we doing? Tennis? Which is going to be 40 subtract 24. And then Jackson said, hey, I see that 0 in my ones column, and that means I'm definitely going to have to regroup because I have no ones. So he downshifted both values the same rate, that same amount. As long as my distance is the same, he can do that. So he said, okay, I'm going to downshift 40 to 39. I'm going to downshift 24 to 23. And that gives me a little bit easier of a subtraction problem. Go ahead and solve that subtraction problem in your notes. I want you to have both equations in there too, please. 16 people. Alright, number 4. How many students were surveyed in all? How am I going to figure that out? How many students were surveyed in all? How would I figure that out? Piper?
Maybe you could do an addition, like, 40.
Okay.
40.
Keep going.
And
Give me the whole long equation. I know you're going to break it up into groups of 2, but give me the whole long equation.
okay.
So 40 plus 48.
So 40 plus 48 plus 32 plus 16.
Okay, so what she is doing is adding up all of our actual votes. Can I show you another way? Count those soccer balls. I want to know how many soccer balls are printed on that paper. 20. Count the number of soccer balls. Jackson? Try that again. Emily? Try that again.
Oh!
Santiago?
20.
I think there's more than 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, there is 20. Sorry. 20 soccer balls. What are each of those soccer balls worth? Ava? I have 20 groups of 8. You can solve that. You can solve 20 times 8, and that might actually be the easier equation to do. Remember, 20 is equal to 2 tens. So what is 2 times 16? 2 times 8. Sorry.
You gave us the answer.
It's 2 times 8, Naviana.
16.
2 times 8 equals 16. But it's really 2 tens, aka 16 tens. How do I show 16 tens? Colin?
Plus 16 and add 0.
No, because 16 plus 0 is still 16. Don't tell me to put zeros anywhere. Tell me in better math language. What is 16 tens worth? Ada, watch again. 156. So how many students did they survey? Could you add them all up? Yeah, that's totally fine. That works for math.
But it was okay.
Ooh, interesting. So Santiago did it a different way. He basically did break apart. He said, well, I know 20 can be broken into 10 and 10. 10 times 8 is 80. Plus another 10 times 8 is 80. 80 plus 80 is 160. Nice. Alright. We're going to work on this problem. You're going to get this pictograph. And then you're going to solve these 5 questions. These 5 questions in your notebook. This is going to be partner work. Okay? Pay very close attention to the key. When you get it, you need to trim it and glue it in your notebook, please. Glue it at the top of the next blank page. That's fine. Is it hurting you?
The nearest one I
Is
found
it
is
hurting
Good
me?
Intention Therapeutic Massage and Wellness. Want to try that?
It's fine. It's really fine. It happens. Please make sure that you glue this on the top of your page so that way you can answer the questions below it. Questions about what I'm asking you to do. Questions about what I'm asking you to do. Okay. Not finish with your partner. You need to be finishing as we go over it together, please. Even if you are done, this is still out. Ada, will you close my door, please? Alright, number 1 reads, how many more boxes of Thin Mints were sold than Samoas? Before I even get to that, I need to figure out how many actual boxes were sold. What is the equation I'm going to write for Samoas to figure out how many Samoas were sold? Kaylee?
6 times 6.
Keep going. Equals?
38.
No. 5 times 6 is what, Kaylee? 30. So 6 times 6 is?
40.
You are adding one more group of 6 to get from 5 groups of 6 to 6 groups of 6. 5 groups of 6 is 30. So what is 6 groups of 6?
42.
30 plus 6 equals 48. No. Ryan? 36. Equation for Thin Mints. Equation for Thin Mints. Gabriella?
40.
That is not an equation.
6 times 7 equals 40. Yeah.
6 times 7 does not equal 40. 6 times 6 equals 36. What is 6 times 7? Count on one more group. Do it now. Ready? 36.
37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42.
Jackson, sit up, please. Equation for tag-along. Elliot? Is what? What? 30. And equation for cranberry citrus. Naviana?
2 times 6 equals 12.
Very good. Now I need to know how many more boxes of Thin Mints were sold than Samoas. I need an equation. How many more boxes of Thin Mints were sold than Samoas? Aiden Rosa, give it a shot. Okay, give it a shot. We're doing number 1. How many more boxes of Thin Mints were sold than Samoas? Excuse me. I need an equation. How many Thin Mints were sold? We just did it all together. I'm not really sure where you had been. How many Thin Mints were sold? Maddie. 42. Subtract the number of Samoas sold. Is how many, Emily? How many Samoas were sold? 36. 42. Subtract 36. Equal to what? Piper? 6. You could also look at our graph. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of my little cookie picture. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, have 6/7 of my cookie picture. A difference of 1 cookie picture, and 1 cookie picture is equal to 6 boxes. So there is 6 more Thin Mints sold than Samoas. Number 2. Pay attention, please. Get with me. How many more boxes of Samoas were sold than Tagalongs? Probably need to know how many Samoas were sold. How many Samoas were sold? Lindley?
36.
36. Subtract. How many Tagalongs, Colin? 30. 36 minus 30 equals how many? Aiden? 6.
We got it!
Number 3. This was the first year, a trial run for the cranberry citrus cookies. Do you think people like them? Why or why not? I don't care if you like them. I care about what our data says. Do you think, based on our data, people like the cranberry citrus cookies? What do you think, Ava? Why?
Because in the graph, the data for the cranberry is that only 12 people like them.
Yeah, not very many people bought them. If you like it, typically you buy it, right? Only 12 people bought this cranberry citrus cookie. That's way smaller than any other cookie up there. So I would probably say no. Because it was sold the least. How many cookies did Emma sell in all? Give me an addition equation for how many cookies she sold in all. Naviana? 36.
Plus 42 plus 30 plus 12.
And we talked about a different way other than adding that all up. You could use a multiplication equation. Colin, what's it going to be?
6 times 20 equals 1.
Is that how many cookies we have? 20?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 cookie pictures, and each cookie picture is worth 6. 20 times 6. 2 tens times 6. 2 times 6 is what? 2 times 6. Haley?
12.
So what is 2 tens times 6? 12 tens. What is 12 tens worth? Caleb? 110. If Emma's cousin sold half as many boxes as her, how many boxes did her cousin sell? Yeah, let me ask this. Oops. We know Emma sold 120 boxes. How do I get to half? How do I get to half? Aiden?
Make that 12 and then 8. What would be the half of 12?
What math do I use to get to a half? Nope. When I'm splitting something in half, I'm usually sharing it with 2 people, right? One for you and one for you. Which math goes with one for you and one for you? Divided by 2. Now Aiden's right, we can turn that back into just looking at it as 12 tens divided by 2. Aiden, what is 12 divided by 2? 6. But remember, it wasn't just 12, it was 12 tens, so my answer is 6 tens, aka 6